to another episode of Baseball, Books, and Banter with me, your host, Nicole Aslin. As always, welcome to the middle of December. Is it the middle? No, it's the beginning. It's December 8th. Feels like the middle because I feel like we've been in this year, this interminable year forever. But 2024 is coming to a close. A lot of people have been putting out their best of books. I don't like to do that, because I've forgotten what I read in January, and I don't want to shortchange some of my authors back in January. But if you have favorite books, let me know. I love learning more. That's why I ask people for recommendations every time, because I want to read more. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to buy more. I want to go to the library more. So we're going to just jump right into it with the things I'm obsessed with this week. Things that I'm obsessed with. First is my holiday cards that I just sent out. If you want one, just shoot me an email with your address and you'll get one. I'm not even going to show them. I'm going to show them closer to the holiday so that people can be surprised. But basically, I created them on Canva. They're half marketing, half sweet, thoughtful holiday message. So if you get one, yay. If you want one, shoot me an email. The other thing, I don't know if I talked about this before, but my dentist, who is awesome, South Shore Smiles, gave me a cat advent calendar. And so we're on day 8 of that. The cats have enjoyed the treats and they come running when they hear me pop that little door open. So that was super nice. And as everybody knows, I was deathly afraid of the dentist. Still not like the biggest fan of the dentist, but South Shore Smiles, Susan, my hygienist, Dr. Cheng, all amazing, all super friendly. I don't even care if my insurance is the worst and I have to pay more money because they make everything so calm and so, which is what I need. Because I used to skip school to miss, I think I skipped school once in Florida to avoid going to the dentist. And yeah, that was a big thing. My TikTok obsession this week. Oh, first of all, I also want to say shout out to Shannon, my brother's girlfriend, who is at the last ever Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert tonight in Vancouver. I am living vicariously through all your posts and your Instagram reels, and I need more. And I can't wait to see the outfit. But now to my real obsession of the week has been obviously on TikTok. And my watching is, sorry, I got distracted. The crazy neighbor is riding through on his ATV and he has a dog, or the dog is chasing him, or is that a wolf? I don't even know what's happening. Anyway, my real obsession this week on TikTok has been Tally the Elf. And if you know, you know, Disney has their big holiday celebration, and all of a sudden, Tally the Elf came into my life, and basically he's at the parade singing, dancing with 2 bears and then 2 other elves, one whose name is Slay, which I love. And he basically goes up to people, asks them their names, and tries to find them on the naughty or nice list. A lot of times people are naughty, and he's got this thick southern Chrisley accent, and so it just is really funny. And he says, you got time, you still got time. So I love that. Tally the Elf is my new current obsession. And that's about it. Sports has been quiet. I mean, the Patriots aren't on today, so I've got time to like do all my other chores that I want to do. The Bruins and the Celtics played yesterday, so like nothing there. The Celtics are off till Thursday, which is like, that's 5 days of like nothing, which is crazy. But we do have the Bruins, so I guess I can live through that. And they've been on a win streak, so yay. Still no movement on Juan Soto. Still no other big free agent signing. The only one the Red Sox did, and I'm very bummed about it, is they've signed Aroldis Chapman, who is a woman beater, crazy person, and I don't love the fact that he's on my team right now. So I don't want to say I'm hoping he gets injured before the season or that he gets traded away again, but I'm not saying that. So like, you just, if you know, you know. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Marilyn Levinson. We were supposed to meet a couple months ago, and then just life got in the way. And so I rescheduled it for today, and it was so great. And I think we could have talked for like 2 hours. Like she's super knowledgeable. She writes so many different genres. And I think it's so interesting to learn about how she kind of divides her attention between the books. So I hope you enjoy. and welcome back to Baseball Books and Banter. Today's guest, and I should have asked before just to make sure I don't mispronounce it, it's Marilyn Levinson.
Yes, correct.
Sometimes I like to check usually before because as an Aslan, I get a lot of mispronounced last names, and sometimes that's really annoying. So, Marilyn Levinson, I was going to call you a cozy mystery author, but girl, I went on your website. You're like an author of everything. So I'll let you kind of tell people a little bit about yourself and then we'll jump in.
Oh, okay. Well, I live on Long Island and I started out in Brooklyn and I lived in New Hyde Park and then I kept progressing further and further out east. And I still live on Long Island. Well, I guess I was a Spanish teacher for years. And then I started writing when my kids were little. And I write mysteries, suspense, and books for kids. I
Mhm.
have about 23 books out now. Yeah, this past year, you won't believe it, at this age, I had 8 books and a short story come out. 5 were reprints, but still I had to do the editing. And
Yeah.
I'm not used to writing 2 books at a time. And I'm dealing with my agent died a year ago.
Oh, Deb.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
sad, sudden, very sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Super. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah. Dawn Dowdle. Yeah, and then and meanwhile, at the beginning of this year, there I got involved with a brand new publishing house. Somebody I knew, Kelly Moran, started it with a few other people, and she published my very first book that I ever wrote
Oh.
called "Come Home to Death." This is it. It's
Ooh.
the first book I ever wrote, and
Wow.
yeah, and I
And
write.
that's a romantic suspense, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I'm still writing. One of my children's books, Rufus and um, Magic Run Amok, was a children's choice. I wrote it many years ago. Well, Dawn got me a contract with Level Best Books, so for 4 books. So I'm now writing 2 books, which is really a lot for me. 2 books
Yeah.
a year, and I just finished the third one, which is Rufus and The Dark Side of Magic, which is now in edits with my publisher editor at Level Best Books. And I wrote I've written other mysteries, but as Allison Brook,
Yeah.
I wrote the Haunted Library series, and that seemed to take off. And that seemed to be when things really started happening for me, and people began to recognize me and read my books. And the 8th book was published in August.
That's
I
amazing.
decided to end it. A lot of people were upset. I decided to end
Yeah.
it, but I think sometimes series go on too
Sure.
long. And anyway, this is the book, Death. Oh, right, it's the wrong book I brought. It's right. I get my books mixed up. It's Booked on Murder, and that is the final book of the Haunted Library series.
Yeah, and I love that you said that you get to end it on your terms. Barb Ross just did that with her clam bake
I
series.
know, I know.
It's the same thing. Like you want to be able to say, because then, rest in peace, Victoria Thompson. She had the gas lamp mysteries, and unfortunately, she passed away. And so that's kind of now just.
Yeah.
It's. I
Well,
mean, it was a happy book. It's a happy. I mean, the
I
characters
know
are
what you
well
mean.
established, but
Well, right. Well, I opened Death Overdue. That's the first book, where Carrie, my main character, is ready to leave town. She's in the town where her father's family had a farm, and she was living with her great aunt and uncle. And she's ready to leave because she's working in the library. She has a library degree, but she's just doing little tiny jobs, and she's not
yeah,
happy. And she's been having a wandering life the last few years because of her dysfunctional family, and she doesn't really have a family to go home to. And then she does get a permanent job, and then through the books you see how she develops. She has relationships. She
mhm.
has a boyfriend. He becomes her fiance, and they solve this. And in the end, he's helping her, like, solving the mystery, because he is an investigator. And the book does end happily.
Good.
There's a very big adventure scene the day of their wedding, actually,
Oh,
and I'm able to tie
spoiler
things.
alert.
And well, there's a lot that happens, and
Yeah.
and I just felt that the arc had been completed,
Yeah.
and so I feel well. I told people keep saying, "Oh," but I feel like maybe I'll write short stories about it.
Yeah, I think that would be lovely. Like just like kind of like how the reader checks in on their real family. Like you don't necessarily
Exactly.
know their whole story, but every Christmas you get the newsletter and it's like, here's what happened to me this year. And
Yeah,
that's kind of just checking in with your favorite characters. I love that.
yeah. And the thing about that series, I guess, about the way I write, is that you can read any of the books as a
Mhm.
standalone. But it's fun to find the details because I go into actually in the holiday book Red and Gone, that with the Christmas tree cover, her father comes, and he was a thief, and and she loved her father, and you see how his relationship with their relationship
Yeah.
develops, becomes close again over the books. It's not quite the same thing with her mother, who's married to a younger man, nice man. At one point, we see him in a movie that takes place in Clover Ridge in
Oh,
the fourth book, and things things change and develop, and you see how even her friendships mature. And of course, there's a ghost. I love having ghosts in my
yeah.
books. Some of them. Um, and I'm just finished with the first book in my new series. It's also coming out with Crooked Lane Books,
Oh,
called, well, I call it the Dickens Island series, because I created an island. I live on Long Island,
yeah.
and I created this Dickens Island right smack in the middle of the Long Island Sound,
Nice.
between Long Island and Connecticut. And it's been fun, uh, you know, creating new
Yeah.
characters, and murders and family, and and it's the characters are very different. My sleuth, Delia, is divorced, and she has a 15-year-old son,
Okay.
and there's this dog that keeps following them, and he comes into the picture, and
Yeah.
there's a ghost in a secret room, and perhaps some pirate treasure involved.
Love Pirate Treasure.
So it's a lot of fun what we can put into our books. So
Yeah.
I just finished that book, and I'm going over it. It's amazing how many errors, and this you're
100%.
writing one day, and then 3 weeks later you're writing another part.
Hmm.
You have to make sure you're not changing names.
Names are a big one. I just started book 4 in my series, and I had to go back to book 1 because I was like, I think I introduced this character already, and I had a different name in mind. And then I went back and I'm like, oh, that's not her name. I can't change it now. It's all done and dusted. So yeah, I always my big I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, is dates. I always put too many days in the week. That's my big picadillo.
I didn't. I had a problem with that, because when you get to the weekend,
Yeah,
Carrie could still work in the library on a weekend.
sure.
It still impacts what happens, what people are doing.
Right.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I try to keep one book I didn't, and oh
Yeah.
my, but
I I
name,
I
date, yes,
Yeah, I try to do it. I don't do it as much as I should in the beginning, which I probably should maybe start doing. Instead, after I write the first draft, I go back and do a read through, and I literally just list the chapters, and I say chapter 1 Tuesday, chapter 2 Wednesday, chapter 3 Wednesday, and I'm like, oh no, that's a whole nother day. So then I have to go back and kind of. My
yes.
favorite part is then you have to go back and go like, okay, well they had 2 dinners, so we got to like either
Right.
split the day
Yeah.
or they got to eat lunch. Like it's just it's so the life of a writer, guys. It's
No,
working
it's
faster
really.
than you think.
I did that with a minor character, the woman who's the dispatch person in the police department. I had her name in one place. I said, I wonder, what did I call her
Yeah.
2 pages later? And it's
Yeah.
a different name, and it's a good thing I caught it. So I'm doing my second read through, and I'm
Okay.
catching a lot of things like that. I caught a lot in the first one, And because even though we're so intense on the story,
Yeah.
how I don't know, things get changed. And then do I want to have a high school on the island, or do I want them to
Oh,
go to school? Oh, and creating this island was I had to figure out how big it would be, the shape, and
yeah. How
um,
they would get to and from.
and then yesterday I was checking now which Indian tribe
Yeah.
owned this property, and then it's like we do so much, and this is just a cozy.
Yeah.
Um, in Booked on Murder, the last book, I have two very interesting elements. One is Carrie finds that they're straightening up the historic room, the history, and I did base that location on a particular town in mind, but I changed it. I made
Right.
right. And she comes upon a diary. It was always with the pamphlets and everything, but
Yeah.
now she discovered it, of a woman who was hung as a witch. And this was so interesting that I did research, and people were hung as witches in Connecticut before the
Salem.
Salem, yeah,
Right.
15 years before, and it was a capital crime, which and they would trying to the relatives, the descendants were trying to get have these people pardoned,
Yeah.
and they were during as I wrote the book.
Oh,
So I wrote an author's note,
yeah.
that they hadn't yet gotten
It was
pardoned. I
like,
don't know all of them, but some of them were.
yeah.
And so that was and then the other thing I wrote about was I created a secret society of women who takes certain they take the law into their own hands. And
Gotcha.
yeah, and she's so surprised that she's asked to join, and she's so surprised people she knows are in it.
Right.
It's like a little upsetting. So that was fun to write about. And the new book, I checked her son, Delia's son, Connor, is finds something, a map, in what he thinks is a journal by Captain Kidd.
Hmm.
And Captain Kidd really did spend time there, amongst other places. And he did bury some treasure on one of the real islands on Long Island. And then he had it buried, he had it dug up. So because by that, he didn't start out as a
Right. He was a privateer, wasn't he?
exactly, he was first, but it didn't save his life.
Yeah.
So so I have her son digging. It's just fun to bring in historical elements.
Yeah.
Sometimes you never know what you're going to bring in, right?
No, sorry, my cat just knocked something over, and I'm like, oh my
Oh,
god.
I have two. It's
I know.
so
I see one behind you. She jumped up, the black one on the black chair.
oh
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet. Oh, we could just talk cats all day. I'd be totally into that.
Well, that's my. They are siblings. I
Yeah.
got them last August, so they're like about a year and a half old,
Yeah.
and they're like thing one and thing two.
That's adorable.
Yeah, but
I love cats.
they have broken things in a corner that I don't know how they how they managed to do it. But having two, I never had two before,
Okay.
and the interaction is really something to see.
I think also because they're siblings, because I have three. I had four. Yeah, I had four at one time. Long story short, I had a 20-year-old cat and I kept thinking she was going to die. So I adopted a new cat so that she could, and then she lasted 7 more months. So she was like, I'm not going anywhere, lady. So at one time I had four, but I adopted her and her brother when I lived in Pennsylvania. And they were close, brother, sister, tuxedos, adorable. The brother had be put down at 3, had cancer. And so then I was like, oh, she's lonely. And so I got her another cat. She hated the next cat. She was like, nope. I thought it was just going to be us. And now there's this other cat, and they never got along. Like 20 years.
Was it male or female?
Well, she was a lady, and then he was the one I adopted was a male. And now we're just a bunch of ladies in this house. All my cats are girls, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially one's a kitten, so she's like 4 months old. So
Oh,
she
yes.
just knocked a whole bunch of stuff off my
Yeah.
face.
Well, they seem to take delight in that a
Yeah,
lot lately. Oh,
yeah.
He's here. Rub. She
Oh,
wants to rub her.
so I heard cat talk. Like, oh, and so is that why you put animals in the book as well? Just because you have them, or do you just is that kind of the trope that you
You
like
know,
to
something
follow?
it's funny. The dog. I never had a bearded collie. This is Juliet.
Oh,
They look alike, but their markings are
yeah.
similar. This is
Oh, hi. Oh,
and
the whole
he
podcast is me just going. Pss, 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 pss.
and he has the silkiest fur.
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen that. He's
Oh,
much bigger than her.
yeah.
And I don't know how. What happens is Delia comes home and she sees these looks like rags.
Oh,
It's a bearded collie, and
oh,
he curled up on her porch. And well, of course, he enters her life. And
yes.
um, yeah, and I'm thinking sometimes you don't know how did this bearded collie,
Right.
and then of course they find out who it owned, but the
Okay.
was is dead now. But she finds out the house she lives in a Victorian house that belonged to her grandmother, and she finds out from someone that when her grandmother was young, she had a bearded collie.
Oh,
Oh, the grandmother, her son tells her about the secret room in the house that where he found the
yeah.
journal, Captain Kidd's journal, and when she goes back into the room because there's so many books in there,
Right.
um, he she sees her grandmother, who she calls Helena, and yeah, she learns a lot about her grandmother that she never
Yeah.
knew before. So it's just I started putting. I can't remember the first book. I think Giving Up the Ghost was my first book that I had a ghost in.
Okay.
I wrote that a long time ago, and when I once showed the first book to the haunted library
Oh,
to a an editor, at a conference, she says, "Don't get involved with ghosts." She thought I was being, trendy or
oh,
something, and she didn't realize I had a ghost in one of my children's books.
yeah.
A ghost in one of my mysteries. I just enjoyed having it in some of them, not all of
Yeah.
them.
And I think it's kind of nice because many people are spiritually inclined and they do talk to ghosts, they do talk to spirits. And I think in a mystery, it's kind of great to have that also historical perspective, like in the Victorian house, and nice, and it's spooky. I mean, we have a house on Cape Cod and it backs up to a cemetery, and I know that place is haunted. So every now and then, if something happens, you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me just." I think it's a quirk in books that I like, and I think a lot of people like. It's not you're not leaning heavily into the he's possessing somebody, he's doing this. It's literally just like as a sounding board, as somebody to drop clues in. It's kind of a little fun.
That is so so true.
Yeah,
People have told me I don't like paranormal, but I love your Evelyn.
yeah.
And yeah,
First of
because
all, great name.
and then in one book, there's when they break through the library to have an expansion, this other ghost comes, but Evelyn comes and goes, and only Carrie and uh, her little cousin can see her. But this ghost is he happens to come into the library, and he's stumbling because he doesn't know who he is,
Yeah,
and people, it's not so much that they can see him, but he's causing a windfall. It's a knockdown. So Carrie is so happy when Evelyn appears, and they whisk him off someplace, and then she finds out that he is her boyfriend's or fiance at that time, um, or soon to be fiance. I don't remember. It's his uncle, and
oh
he was murdered, and
yeah,
they stuffed his body in that building that was not used very much. And of course they find him.
yeah,
They deal with him and his who murdered him, etc. And he can go away. But it's like Evelyn's job. She stays with him. She finds
yeah.
for him to stay. and
It's almost like a little side story.
yeah,
Every book needs a little
yeah,
backstory of
and
others.
two ghosts, but
Yeah,
very different,
right.
and just like we're very different.
Yeah,
And one is doesn't know where he is. He finally realizes who he is and
right.
where he is, but and has more of a connection because she's in the book for a purpose.
Yeah.
She was sent there to sort of look things over, keep an eye on the town,
Oh,
and as you say, it's not a major element, but she gives Carrie advice, and she does. On the other hand, when there are some murders and she thinks maybe her niece is responsible, she's not so good about
yeah.
getting the information she's sitting on.
Okay. So
So
she's just another character. It's
exactly,
Ghost is secondary. Yeah.
exactly, she's
Yeah.
just another character.
One thing that fascinates me is Marilyn Levinson, Allison Brook. Why that particular pen name? Did you choose it or did somebody choose it for you?
Well, I did. In fact, it's so funny. I have Google finds, and I just saw there's an Allison Brook Park in Indiana.
Oh,
Yeah,
vacation.
it's so funny. Okay, this is what happened when I guess Crooked Lane has a lot of people
Gotcha.
with pseudonyms.
Mhm.
So when they took on they book, I guess they check your other books to see how you did,
Sure.
and well, we'll take her if she
Change
gets
surname.
for them. So I have a group where we all write mysteries. We're together about 20 years, and I said, well, I came up with 5 names. So I thought B was good because it's near the beginning of the
Yep.
alphabet. And I like that name, but I always made it very clear that Allison Brook and Marilyn Levinson are the same people, and almost everyone who I'm on Facebook with a lot of readers, or I have one Facebook page
Right.
profile, but it's under my name. I
Okay.
have one newsletter, it's under Marilyn Levinson. So in other words, people know. I remember when it first came out, and on BookBub they would no, on Goodreads
Oh,
people were discussing, oh, this book was written by a well-known author, or she knows what she's writing, and someone said, oh, it's they mentioned, they knew, because I don't make a secret of it.
right.
Nor and there are many people who have, many of my friends have, some of them have more than
I
one.
know. Crazy.
I know. So but everyone, I think readers know, because in this day and age with social media, our newsletters, um I mean, my newsletter, I get a lot of letters back, even
Okay.
people know me, for
Yeah.
example, because when I do a giveaway, which is almost every month, I say, "Why do you want this book?"
Yeah.
Or I'll ask them a question: what kind of books do you read besides
Okay.
mystery? And sometimes, I mean, it's amazing. The answers are. I get huge letters. I get
Oh,
pictures of
wow.
them, and also I get to know readers
Yeah.
through author takeovers. And I mean, so many of the people who come on, I know, but so many of the people I've never heard, and they'll say, "We never heard of you," and we
Yeah.
never. I said, "Good," and
And here's
so
me.
yeah. So I think author takeovers are a
Yeah.
wonderful way of exposure, getting people to know you,
Oh.
and do you do them? Do you do author
I
takeovers?
haven't done one recently only because I did it when my second book came out, which was 2023, 22. Oh my God, 22, that long ago. Um, and then I felt like I did it a couple times and I'm like, all right, well, I only have these two books to keep selling. And I feel like everybody's already met me. So I'll wait till the third one. But I love, what is the one Heather runs? Heather Harrison, the Cold
Oh
Mystery
yeah,
Party.
yeah.
Um,
We're having a gigantic
right
one.
now.
6 day. I'm on next week.
Okay.
It's, as Allison Brook,
Yeah.
but people know, but
Not really, Marilyn.
yeah, and so many people are posting it, and I just,
Um,
yeah. Oh, and but it's really wonderful because sometimes I know a lot of people do they do their posts beforehand. I'll
Right.
only do one or two,
Yeah.
but I do it as I'm going
Me too.
on. And mine, just the way we're talking,
Yeah.
that's sort of how I'm very informal, and that's how my author takeovers
Yeah.
are. And I'm sure it's with other people. I still get answers to questions
It's
a week
surprise.
later.
Yeah.
And sometimes they start slowly, like
Yeah.
the first 5 or 7 minutes, it's like, it's
Right,
very
okay.
quiet.
Yeah.
And people start coming, and other authors come too,
Mhm.
and like if I try to, if my friends are doing one, I try to stop
Yeah.
by. But and like, I'll ask them about their pets and
Yep.
and I see people I know who and I also mention that I have a newsletter, and I always get
Yep.
subscribers because I don't think, when people do these huge giveaways with a bunch of like 8, 10, 15 books, and you sign up for a newsletter, they don't really know you. But the people who are signing up for me from an author,
They want to know you.
yeah, they're getting to know me. They see what
Yeah.
I'm writing. I don't mean just writing about a book, but
Right.
relating to them, because
Yeah.
I write back answers. I don't
Yeah.
just yes, hi. That's I write back answers when I
Yeah.
can. And in fact, once I when my I had to put my Sammy to sleep, I couldn't decide. He was a biter, and I thought, well, maybe. And I you know why I realized he was, because he hadn't been fostered.
Oh, so he hasn't used to
A
it.
very big difference, because that's when they learn to, they're, how they are. They're
Mhm.
fighting, but they're not really fighting, and
Right.
they learn. And I mean, I know the difference with these two, and because they were fostered.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I asked, which gender do you
Yeah.
recommend? And no, it just, in other words, it was something I wanted to know. Or
Right.
I'll ask people, like, what do you like to read?
Yep.
Do you prefer paper,
Oh,
hardcover, or
no
paper,
question. Yep.
or audio, which I love now, or
Okay.
ebook, which I love? I guess I read all three.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. Whatever I'm, but I try to respond to their, or who are some of your favorite authors?
Right.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. I mean, when I get to the pets, some of them have so many.
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
so many.
I'm like 3. That's all I got right now. Now, if somebody was like, I have this kitten, I don't know if you know Donna Raymondard, when we did Crime Bake, she was like, I have a cat that I'm trying to rehome. And I'm
Oh,
like, I'll take her. And so now I have Fern, who's somewhere around here.
oh
And then
wow.
my pet sitter had this kitten and her family. And I just put down my second cat of the year, 18. So they were both very old. They lived good lives, my Jacques. And so I wanted a boy cat. And she's like, oh, here's Captain. And it's like, I call her Captain, call him Captain because he runs all his sisters. Well, then a week before I picked her up for adoption, they were like, oh, she's a girl. Surprise. We thought she was a boy for 2
Funny.
months. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to like turn her down. Like, she still needs a home. So now Captain the girl is, this year I bought a scratching post Christmas tree so that they can, because I was like, the 4-month-old will knock my tree over, my white tacky Christmas tree over. I can't do that. So this year it's a cat tree, and we're just gonna go with it. And I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't talk baseball because I know you're sort of a Yankees fan. So I said, let's not talk baseball.
No, I was a Dodgers
Well, you
fan.
were a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, right?
Right. And then when my son Mike is very, very into, and well, he lives in Pennsylvania now.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned King of
Yeah.
Prussia. He lived there for 1 or 2 years. They
Okay.
lived in Boylestown,
Yeah.
and probably the only Yankee fan, but he's a very serious Yankee fan.
Oof.
Yeah, but I remember watching that old Dodgers game, that World Series I watched with Carl Erskine, and Duke Snyder was my
I
hero.
wrote that down and then I Googled him, and him and I share our birthday was within a week of each other. And I was like, oh, that's
You
kind
and
of cool.
Snyder, you
Yeah.
and Duke. Well, let
Well,
me.
I mean, obviously different years, guys.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
not I'm not immortal, but yeah.
Oh, Did I tell you? Okay, I like Duke Snyder so much that the at the time I thought it was a terrible thing they did. The boys, I was in the 8th grade, and the boys in my class, they said, Marilyn, we got a picture of Duke Snyder for you, and and his autograph. Well, I was all excited, but that's not what they did.
No.
They took the cover of a book of a magazine, and one of them wrote Duke Snyder on it. I was crushed.
Boys are such jerks sometimes.
I know.
Ugh.
But what a team that was. And
Yeah.
then and once they moved to LA, I had no interest in it
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, but I would root for but I do have a picture of Duke Snyder because my daughter-in-law's father sent me one, and
Oh,
it's a real picture.
that's so cute. That's so great. Oh, they know your love so much.
Isn't that something?
That's
Yeah.
adorable. I love that kind of stuff. So it was a happy ending. Where are those boys now that were in 8th grade? Probably
I
not writing mystery novels, probably in prison for fraud or something.
Yeah. Well, I have enough trouble because I still hear from high school. Do you know that somebody who I went to high school with, and we weren't even really
Yeah,
friendly, we were the same class because it was a small high school, and now we're friends because we both write mysteries.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I
Ellen
love full
Christmas.
circle. That's a
Yeah.
full circle moment.
So that's you never know.
No, you never know. So we only have a few minutes left, but I want to see if you have any book recommendations for my readers.
Well, I can't remember the name. I'm reading this book by Nikki Knight.
Oh,
She, yeah.
yep.
And okay, so it's funny because I've read another series of hers which take
Yeah.
place in the 1920s in Manhattan. And this is just so delightful. She is on 1010 in the morning, the radio.
I know.
And
I tell her all the time, like when I drive to Malice and I drive home from Malice, when I pass through New
yeah,
York, I'm like, Catherine, I hear you on
yeah.
TV. I was like, oh my God, 1010. I love this. Is
Well,
something
this
my
book,
listeners should know. I love news radio like that.
I
So
forgot the name of the book, but I mean, it's just adorable. I
yeah.
love it, love it. And then I love Laurie Robbins' books.
Oh
Okay,
yes, the dance.
I was a
Oh,
girl.
we
It,
didn't even talk about your ballerina past, and I wanted to.
well, I wasn't. I just took class. So
Same.
I have two writer friends who I'm so impressed because they were dancers, like Lynn Slaughter
Mm-hmm.
and Laurie Robbins, and they were actual
Right.
professional dancers, and they're both phenomenal authors. And
Oh,
I love and Lori she says she loves my books. I said,
yeah.
oh, I read your other books.
Yeah.
He told me she read. Well, I love her books, and she also has the ballerina books, but she
Yeah.
also has another series.
Like a
And
professor.
yes,
Yeah.
you're right. She teaches high school in English, right, something like that. I'm
Yeah.
very bad. I should have these titles.
That's okay. We can tell people Google. Google is free, guys. Just Google Lori
And
Robbins.
I love psychological books, like Lisa Jewell and books like that. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, so some of the books I read, I just finished one book, Shall Go Unnamed, and it's like one of the best. They keep, it's
Yeah.
on the best list. Well, I finished it. It was
That's
interesting. I
okay.
added with another person who writes the kind of same book I do,
Yeah.
and we both felt it was very slow. I don't like characters who it's like a negative voice.
Yeah.
It brings you down. I
Yeah.
think that's why I like to write cozies because
Same.
yeah, we have murders and my books are character driven
Yeah.
and relationships are a very important part of it. But there's a general warm feeling.
Yeah. I'm not a big unlikable narrator fan personally. I like people who are real, but not people who are like damaging to others. Like,
Yes,
and I
exactly.
think that's why cozies kind of fit that niche. Everybody has issues, but these people aren't slaves to their issues. They live a life. And because that's why I hated Gone Girl, the women. I read all those stupid, the woman in
Yeah,
apartment 10, all of those. And I'm like, I hate all these characters. Why am I reading this?
I know. I'm like you,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, good, good. But on that note, before we get cut off, because I've been cut off many a times on this before, I want to say thank you so much for joining. And people can find you under Marilyn Levinson. I'll put your link.
That's exactly it. www Marilyn Levinson.
You've got the domain. Perfect. And I'll put the link so people can sign up for your newsletters, for giveaways, get you on Facebook, all the other socials. But thank you so
Nicole.
much.
So I can't believe it. 45 minutes
I
passed.
know. I know.
I thought it was 20.
See how fun. And as soon as I stopped recording, I literally got the cutoff. So this time I ended it right on time. But yeah, I could have talked to her for days, and hopefully I'll get to see her at a conference soon. Or, you know, if I get down to Connecticut, maybe we can meet up. As you know, I'm from Connecticut originally, so I love chatting and visiting Connecticut. Go and see some of my favorite authors like Karina Moss and now Marilyn, who's Long Island, but close enough to Connecticut. Um, and so I want to talk about the books I'm reading currently. The first one is a library book. It's called The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. It's a weird book because it's like interesting, but it's also kind of boring because it's about like, I don't know. I don't even know what's about politics, but like I'm into it, but like nothing's really happened yet. So I don't know. I'm reading it. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. So about halfway, not halfway, a third of the way through. Another one that I'm reading, because I actually grabbed the wrong one, but that's okay. It's the same series. It's called From Randy Johnson to Dallas Braden, No Hitters Beyond the Box Score. This is volume 2. Volume 1 is over on my chair. I'm going to be interviewing Kevin Hurd on the podcast next week, so I wanted to he was kind enough to send me copies of this. So it's going to be interesting, and obviously I know the Red Sox have had some no-hitters. Clay Buchholz is one I remember. I think John Lester was another one. So that's kind of really exciting. So two books in this series, in this volume. So I can't wait to check it out. So that's on my list. And the other thing, in March, I will be doing an event. I think it's a live stream because I haven't figured out how I'm doing it yet, with the Cozy Mystery Book Club, Angela, who's a great friend. And we'll be talking about Ellen Byron's Bio Book Thief series. So I have that, and I'm starting it now to get kind of my head around it. Ellen Byron, great author, great person in general. So I'm really excited. I was pushing for her to be guest of honor at the Crime Bake next year, but Lori Rader Day is the guest of honor, who is equally awesome. So like, I'm not mad at it. But yeah, so I'm going to check out her series. She also used to write for one of my favorite shows, Wings, which kids get on to the Paramount now and watch it. It's just so funny. But yeah, so those are kind of what I'm reading now. I've got a couple on the Kindle that I'm getting through, a lot of historical mysteries, strong lead, cute detective, inspector, all that kind of good stuff. But now I know you probably want to ask me, like, Nicole, no, really, where's your next book? Well, we're still in process, still waiting for a cover, still waiting for a pub date. Also having some publishing growing pains, and we're going to see. As of right now, I'm still with Panda Moon, but we're going to see what happens in the future. They're in the middle of a transition, and I don't know if that's going to work for me anymore. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. But I think that's it. I got football on now, and it's not great. Not a lot of the games are good today, so maybe I'll just go sit and read my book. But until next time, happy reading, and go Red Sox.